you've got my sound, but you wouldn't be able to hear when other people share. So I'll try to fix that while Jim is doing movement. All right. Here comes her voice.
Recording in progress.
There. I feel more secure now. Oh, boy. There is an inherent dukkha in meeting with you. 3 years ago, I turned 70. And my wife Jennifer and my daughter Tara staged a surprise party, and it was almost a surprise. It was still a surprise. When I knew what was happening, then they took me to the center, and then there were 175 people there. And I kind of blew up inside. And then it was the most frustrating experience because I got to greet this person who'd flown across the country to see me, or my sister who never travels on her own. And I got a minute and a half, maybe. And then there was somebody tugging at my shirt. It was like, shit, I have barely begun to connect here. It's inherent dukkha. The answer is, of course, to not care. That's my solution. Either that or to care so much that it's okay. And that's today's Dharma talk will be about love and diversity, equity, and inclusion, weirdly enough. it's all the same thing. I'll give you a preview or a little hint that as I'm waking up to this dimension of life, I have so much power in my role. Here you are, I'm talking. I'm the old gray-haired white guy talking as though I knew something special. And in some way I do. But my task, I realized in life and particularly in the it's becoming clear in the PIMC community, there are people who don't feel comfortable for their own reasons, for structural reasons. And my task is to be attentive and to help all my colleagues and all of us be attentive. Who's the person or the group that's saying quietly, or maybe not saying, or maybe saying with their absence or saying with their eyes, what about me? Do I belong? Can I play? Can I be in this sandbox? Can I? That's what the Buddha was all about, wasn't it? And the Dharma is all about that. The parts of ourselves that are split off and not acceptable, and we're frightened of them and we're traumatized around. It's always the same thing, making room. There's room for everything. So I'm really glad you're here, and I'm very touched. I don't just say that. It's very, if I dare to let it in, it's so remarkably touching to me. We are. Was it Walter Mondale that teared up all the time and they made fun of? Who was it? Some sensitive guy.
John Boehner.
Who was it?
John Boehner?
Maybe it was John Boehner. Right. What a terrible, awful.
John Boehner.
Yeah. What a weak man. He got teary. Jeez. He must have been broken. All right. I have a very heavy poem for us. All right. It is a heavy poem. with a beautiful lightness to it as well. Kind of like life. A brief for the defense. Sorrow everywhere. Slaughter everywhere. If babies are not starving someplace, they are starving somewhere else, with flies in their nostrils. But we enjoy our lives because that's what God wants. That's what the universe wants. Otherwise, the mornings before summer dawn would not be made so fine. The Bengal tiger would not be fashioned so miraculously well. The poor women at the fountain are laughing together between the suffering they have known and the awfulness in their future, smiling and laughing while somebody in the village is very sick. There is laughter every day in the horrible streets of Kolkata. The women laugh in the cages of Mumbai. If we deny our happiness, resist our satisfaction, we lessen the importance of their deprivation. We must risk delightment. But I missed it. We must risk delight. We can do without pleasure, but not without delight, not enjoyment. We must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of the world. To make injustice the only measure of our attention is to praise the devil. If the locomotive of the Lord runs us down, we should give thanks that the end had magnitude. We must admit there will be music despite everything. We stand at the prow again of a small ship, anchored late at night to the tiny port, looking over the sleeping island. The waterfront is 3 shuttered cafes and 1 naked light burning. To hear the faint sound of oars in the silence as a rowboat comes slowly out and then goes back is truly worth all the years of sorrow that are to come. Now, is that not a poem and a half? Whew. Sorrow everywhere, slaughter everywhere. If babies are not starving someplace, they are starving somewhere else, with flies in their nostrils. But we enjoy our lives because that's what the universe wants. Otherwise, the mornings before summer dawn would not be made so fine. The Bengal tiger would not be fashioned so miraculously well. The poor women at the fountain are laughing together between the suffering they have known and the awfulness in their future, smiling and laughing while somebody in the village is very sick. There is laughter every day in the terrible streets of Kolkata, and women laugh in the cages of Mumbai. If we deny our happiness, resist our satisfaction, we lessen the importance of their deprivation. We must risk delight. We can do without pleasure, but not without delight, not enjoyment. We must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of this world. To make injustice the only measure of our attention is to praise the devil. If the locomotive of the Lord runs us down, we should give thanks that the end had magnitude. We must admit there will be music despite everything. We stand at the prow again of a small ship anchored late at night in the tiny port. Looking over to the sleeping island, the waterfront is 3 shuttered cafes and 1 naked light burning. To hear the faint sounds of oars in the silence as a rowboat comes slowly out and then goes back is truly worth all the years of sorrow that may come. There. Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. Which one is that? I forgot. I think it's this one. Kylie, how's that sound? Good? Sound check. Oh. News from the Rupa, the body front. That fantastic young man at the hospital on Friday morning put needles into my back and adjusted one until it got right into the place where all of the pain in my hip comes from. And then he injected something and it really was clear. This is the spot. And then he injected something out and it's almost painless. Won't be forever, but I got out of bed this morning prepared to wince. I still winced, but there was no pain. I will no doubt wince for a while, just not to forget. Of course, it won't always be like that, right? But that's how it is now. I hear that little boat coming out from the island. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. A suggestion. Even after my time as a monk, I always thought the chanting was kind of extraneous. Achan Sumedo came and did a retreat, and he said, try it. If you don't like it, sing anyway. And then I realized, wow, I like this stuff. So you can unmute if you want or don't, but I guess better not. I get thrown off. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Well, there, we have all the exuberance out of the way. Let's get to work. Let's do the important stuff. And in fact, what do we do except stop? Stop, take a comfortable upright posture. Maybe take a moment to remember the words of Ruth King. You belong to me, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I belong to you, otherwise you wouldn't have come. My heart and your heart are very old friends. So we take the seat here beneath the Bodhi tree, the seat of our awakening. We remind ourselves of the refuges, and then we become them. Please notice the aliveness in the body. It's here all the time, tingling, vibrating, hot, cold, in pain, in pleasure, in neutrality. I aspire to love and accept myself and this moment exactly as it is. And so there is this breath that comes and goes. What a mystery. This body and mind are exactly as they are in this moment. There may be lots of wandering mind or none. The mind may be sleepy, tired, dull, or very awake, crystalline, energetic. There's a mystery here, the mystery. What is it that's awake? What is it that knows this body sitting here? We can't look at it directly, but it's us. It's here. Become aware of the life in the hands and the fingers. In the legs. In the face. It's probable, inevitable, that sometimes we will encounter discomfort, pain, dissatisfaction. What else is there to do but to open to it? To notice that pain in the body, or that aching in the heart, that fear, that loneliness. How else will we have room for the beauty and the joy? Each breath has a beginning. And because of that beginning, it has a rising to fullness. Because of that rising to fullness, it has a decline, a disappearance. The Buddha spoke of this as anicca. Thoughts similarly have their beginning, middle, and end. And so we sit here at the moment of creation and destruction, right here. This is it. Part of the discipline, the support for our practice, is the notion of parking, stopping, becoming a rock. Feel your earthen nature, your rock nature, your dirt nature. When an itch comes up, let it itch. When the impulse to reach for the coffee arises, let it sit there. It'll be there. Be here. When unpleasant experiences arise, there's usually disliking. When pleasant experiences arise, there's liking. The vast neutral experiences are hardly noticed. Let us attune ourselves to the awakening, to these arisings and passings away. There are many trance states that come along There are many familiar trance states that come along. There's the flood of memories. The list of shoulds, should do. Oh no, I forgot to do. There are the emotional carryovers from conversations, from conflicts. There's shame that's been piled on since early infancy sometimes, or distrust, fear. None of it's bad. It's just trance states. The costume of personality. And so what to do about this? Nothing. Unless being aware is something. But it's not something to do, it's something we are. And we have this support, this exquisite model of strategies from the Buddha. Try to live in the present moment. Come home to breathing. Come home to the body sitting in this chair or lying on this couch. Feel its heaviness, its density. Notice how alive it is. It's nothing but life. Maybe the mind is simply desiring something. I want more concentration. I want to buy that thing I saw. I want this person. No need to change it. It's just a desire. Maybe the mind is unhappy about something, complaining, whining, disliking. Doesn't matter. It's just what it does. Restless, agitated, worried. Come back to breathing. Drop it. Again and again, come home. Feel the life of the body, the rupa. Sleepy, dull, bored. What an interesting state. Doubting. Also very interesting. Unsettling. So we come back and cultivate mindfulness, curiosity, energy, tranquility, concentration. As we rest in this moment now. There are different capacities of mind and heart that we can focus on. To condition concentration, we pay attention to what am I concentrating upon? What's my home base? All right, it's the sensations of breathing. How intimately can I, dare I, embrace the fact of of being a body breathing. To breathe and know it fully is to know of being mortal. Dare I love what is mortal? To develop concentration on breathing, once awareness and breathing are together, we make a subtle effort to persist there. When the mind wanders from there with great kindness and persistence, we come back there to this breath, this awareness now. I aspire to love and accept this moment. This that is my life in this moment. And now, as we come to the end of this time of resting in our own beauty and awareness emerging, please allow awareness to blossom, to awaken in your thighs and buttocks, in your feet, in your hands, the hands, in the face, in the eyes. And now noticing how it takes an effort of will, it takes the mind to follow the prompted intention to allow the eyes to open. And making that effort to peel back the eyelids and see if something really interesting doesn't happen. A different sense door. We normally would say, well, now I'm seeing, but is it maybe just there's seeing? Doesn't require any story. There's seeing. And we come out of this sitting time. We can also take note of mood. 'Mood? 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 ' I experience this mood as much calmer, still pretty content and joyful, but much calmer. Jim, I am totally unprepared for announcements. Is there anything?
I think Doug is starting this Thursday with his latest edition of the basics mindfulness class on Thursday. I'm pretty sure there's still a place to register for that.
Great. Robert is still dithering on what he's going to do.
Is there an update, Robert, on the work on PIMC?
Oh, yes. I will try during Jim's movement to see if I can get a movie queued up. And I am sending them out to the listserv. It's exciting. It's exciting. There's these workmen there. I'm so frustrated I don't speak Spanish. I mean, their English is pretty good, but it's sort of embarrassing to not be able to talk to them in their own language. But they're such nice guys, and they're being so careful. They're so clean. Who does construction projects that are clean? Mine are always a mess. They have these, when they're cutting sheetrock, they have these giant air scrubbers. I mean, huge, humongous things. They put a 1.5-foot plastic tube out toward the cars, and I thought, oh man, that's not going to be good for the cars. But no, they have these. They're almost HEPA filters, and when they're cutting, the air gets kind of cloudy, and then whoosh, it all goes into the machine. And they sweep up at the end of the day, and they've already cut the ceilings 3 feet off the ceilings of all the offices downstairs, and you can now see the joists where they're going to be attaching those. It's ridiculous. The joists, these big long joists that go all the way across the building, 54 feet. They're supported once in the middle. They're on 1 inch of the foundation. So if the foundation moved an inch, the floor would fall out. So they're doing fancy fasteners there, and there's a day-by-day schedule. They're very organized, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finish on time, which will mean we get in December the 15th now. It looks like the actual re-entry point. It may be before, a little bit. And there, I guess most where my mind always goes is the competence and kindness of these people. This PNC construction crowd, they're being so generous. And Pete is our superintendent, and we're having a great time. So thank you for asking, Danny. There was a fellow there that I hadn't seen before a day or so ago. He was out there looking at the measuring, I think, for the posts for the ramp. And we discovered another little expense is coming in. Oh, I got to get back to that. I do have an announcement. We have to rebuild the gate. I mean, duh. So in order to have it be workable for someone in a wheelchair and also not to fall down, it is 15 years old. So we're gonna rebuild that. And that then brings me to, I will put in the chat if I can find it, the fundraising letter. We're at something like I'm guessing $44,000 has come in, which is remarkable. Thank you, dear, generous, lovely humans. And we're aiming at about another 40 more. We're still not sure. We may have a $23. There may be a $23,000 credit because they have to do some duct work. You know why? Because there's a duct in the hallway. You ready for this? It's 1.5 inches too low. And in order to raise it, we may have to tear out a huge amount of ductwork, in which case they've estimated $23,000, or it may be $3,000. So we don't know. So that'd be a nice credit. Usually it goes the other way. And of course one holds one's breath. They may cut into a wall and say, "Oh man, look at this, we're in trouble." But we're not in trouble. This is going just fine. It's always worked beautifully for PIMC. When we bought the building, here's the tears. Who was it? Somebody told me. It was Tim. Who was it, Tim? It was Ed Muskie. Ed Muskie's chances of being president were sunk when he cried, "Geez, I'm screwed." But then I really don't want to be president. Can you imagine that? Oh, what a curse. It's like the fifth something or other hell in Tibetan to be the American president, Tibetan Buddhism. Anyway, here's the hysteria again. It's coming back. Cool it down, Robert. Oh well, I'll put the link to the letter in the chat, and if you've here's the piece I want to say. Any giving we do at all in our lives, it's always giving to ourselves. And so to give to PIMC, to keep the doors open, to help it blossom even further, is a gift to yourself. Yourself posing as the next person who walks through the door or comes to the website. And I guess I could announce this. It's almost ready. Kat has been behind the scenes working on a new, vastly improved website for Ruth Dennison. And we're going to have as many, I think, as 35 Dharma talks, not heard since the late 80s, magically appearing. So there's a lot of burgeoning happening. It's quite exciting. And you're a part of it. So, Mr. Dalton, would you like to take the helm? I'm going to see if I can get some sound for you.
I am not a co-host.
Oh, you want to be?
Well, I don't have to be, but it does help put a spotlight on the person that's moving.
All right, here you go. You are co-hosted, my friend.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll be back.
And I'll spotlight this person that's got a blue shirt on. It looks like me. And a little more light.
It's working.
Okay. Please join me in some mindful movement. I'm moving with my ancestors. Here's Mr. Buddha right there. So beginning with a little, Robert suggested that he's going to be talking about loving kindness and relationship. So working with Qigong is working with our relationship with our own bodies. So let's reach up and find that collarbone. And underneath the collarbone, there's a little hollow. And if we reach up with one hand and move around in a circle in that little hollow, we can massage a muscle. Now, what muscle is it? It's connected to, now take your other hand and touch your shoulder and feel how distorted that little hollow place gets, because the effort of reaching across is tension. It's a gripping, and we let this arm that's hanging down relax, and then we can move gently into that muscle that works all day long and give it a little support, appreciation, all the things it does. And then switch, let the hand that's been massaging, let that hand relax and reach across and find the collarbone on the other side and just gently work into it. And so there's a structural component here. We're relaxing the muscle that we use all day for pushing and pulling and reaching out, and we're just allowing it to hang, and we're appreciating it. But what also is happening is that we're massaging points of energy that go through the lungs. So after we soften the arms, we can open the arms and breathe in with a little more capacity than ordinary. You know, we don't often just lift our arms up and then open them to the side and make space for all the little nooks and crannies in the lungs to fill up, exchange their vital energy with the blood that's going to the heart. The heart takes that energized blood out to the nervous system, the spine, the brain, and the muscles, the bones. Everybody is breathing. The breathing is connected from this simple in breath and out breath. It's a whole body that breathes. You can't pump the energy through the whole body without the cooperation of the whole body. And we don't have to think that out. It's not a puzzle. It's just a subtle intention. Let's lift energy up from the earth, fill our lungs, and then ease down and release the energy that we no longer need. Carbon dioxide, new oxygen coming in. Or we can think of it as chi that's flowing up into the body, filling the lungs, gathering and releasing. New energy filling the whole body, gathering what we don't need and releasing. And sink. And then just standing, allowing the body to rest now. We're still breathing, but we're not using 100% of our capacity of all the energy exchanges that Qigong allows. We're just standing and breathing, checking out any kind of tension, any kind of holding, and trying to breathe into muscles that feel like they're stagnant or holding or tense. But feel the palms of the hands. After all this movement, there may be a new sensation of vitality, life in the hands. We can deliberately bring the attention down to the feet and just slowly rock forward and rock back and find that spot in the middle where there's you maybe also move to the side, do a little circular investigation. Find the spot that takes the least amount of muscular tension to support this skeleton. We have a level chin, shoulders back, feet in touch with the earth in a balanced way. The balls of the feet and the heels have the similar feeling of pressure. And if we adjust just a little bit, oh yeah, there's less energy needed here. You find that spot on either foot. Maybe there's a subtle holding in the hips. What can be released in the hips without losing our balance or losing our poise, our dignity. There's so many in the discourses where the Buddha says, "Oh, noble ones." That's us. Standing with affectionate attention for this whole body that works as a unit. We can sink into the knees and open to the side and gather energy from above, bring it down. As we open, the palms are kind of facing up. When we get overhead, let the palms face in. Let the little electromagnetic energy from the palms of your hands just radiate into your body, thanking your body for all the automatic processes, digesting food, breathing air, transporting us from one place to another. Appreciation and attention to the interchange between the palms of the hands and the torso. Opening up one more time. Then we come to stillness again and notice the sensations in the shoulders, in the arms, the wrists, down into the hands again. The cooperation, the love, the loving awareness between the shoulders and the fingertips is tangible. It's like there's a signal system, a hum. Ram Dass called it I just lost it. Dial tone. It's the dial tone of the universe. It's running through our nervous system, up our spine, into the shoulders, through the arms. We reached out and up to gather. We can also come up the body, palms up, turn the palms over, and then just radiate out. Give back to the universe some of this energy that's flowing through us, lifting up, turning upward and outward, contributing to the flow of energy, just like we do when we exchange smiles, exchange actions, hand somebody a package, hand somebody a new power cord for one of their devices. You know, we're always giving gifts, receiving gifts. Right now, we're opening the shoulders and feeling that interrelationship with others, moving outward, in touch with the earth, opening to be generous, letting the flow move through us in all our interactions. And then this time, instead of just letting the arms hang from the shoulders, turn the palms up as if you're receiving new energy from all your relationships. Relationships with loved ones, relationships with casual connections, cohorts at work, or people in the store. We live in this reciprocal give and take. And there's signals in the nervous system all the time. If we pause, breathe easy, calm the body, that calms the mind, and then we're more sensitive to our relationship with the whole process. Then we bring our hands together in gratitude, feeling the contact, press a little bit, and then release, just barely touching one palm to the other. Bending from the waist and bowing, feeling all the muscles that release. Come back up, taking our poised and dignified position as noble ones on the path. Take care, have a good day, and I'll see you next Sunday, and maybe tomorrow. I have a bell today.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
It's a
Thank
serious.
you.
That's a serious bell. View. I need to change the view back to gallery. There we are. Ah. Hello, Allison. Are you breathing?
I am. Hello, Robert.
Hi.
Good to be here with everybody.
Thanks for coming. There's Candle herself. Hello, the big-hearted, kind, wise, fresh from Hawaii, Candle Summers. He's just in time to speak about her event this evening.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay. Hi,
I know it's hard to get you to talk about it, but go ahead.
Hello, friends. Let's see. We have a lot of black screens I see. There's folks out there. And then I see Maggie and Jim and Michael and Jessica and Eric and Christopher. Hi, Eileen. Hi, Tamara. Hi, Jonas. I see you waving there on the river.
He's paddling.
Hi, Luba. Hi, Wally. Anyway, okay. Tonight, 6:30 to 8:30. Hi, Danny. 6:30 to 8:30. Vipassana, Insight, and Metta. It's classic. We sit. We have conversation about the Dharma. We do insight practice and we do loving kindness practice. And depending on what's going on, I might have a subject or we might create a subject on the spot. Always enjoyable to have extra time sitting. Having come back from Cloud Mountain, sitting several hours a day, I can vouch for the depth of practice of helping encourage the mind stream toward further freedom by sitting more than once a day. So if you can come. It's on the calendar. You have to go there for the link. And it's also on the Facebook page as an event. And even if you haven't been sitting for a while or you're new to practice, all are welcome. Bye for now. Is that good enough, do you think, Robert?
I don't know.
I could say more.
I mean, it's certainly an A.
I could ask Luba or Maggie to tell us about it. It's like when you have when you introduce somebody else instead of having them
third party testimonials. But
Yeah.
how about this? Could you and it's okay if you don't. Could you say a minute about what we did yesterday? It was so moving to me. I hardly have words for it. Really.
What we did yesterday. Well, if you look on Connections, I actually sent out an email on Connections yesterday afternoon with 3 articles that was sort of our homework, our pre pre-reading for this, and it's a 4-week course. It is with Rhonda McGee and Crystal Johnson and Mushim Ikado, I think is her last name. So there's a Zen priest, a Buddhist practitioner who's a well-known author, Robin McGee, who I believe is also a lawyer, and Crystal Johnson, who does these trainings on diversity and equity with Spirit Rock and with IMS and other communities. And it's an exploration, really, of diversity, equity, and inclusion within Sangha groups. And so it will unfold. It was a very kind and loving, slow unfolding of people sharing with each other. And it broke up into small groups, which allowed for, some personal interactions around answering some questions. So it was very, very useful. And I really was totally happy that Robert came and is coming and enjoys it.
It's blowing my
And
mind.
they asked us questions about our values and what kind of conflicts we had and how we mindfully bridged the gap and some things like that. Did I jog any extra words for you, Robert?
To be in the presence of those people, in general, my small group was really wonderful, but to have those 3 women with their depth of love, compassion, competence, power, ease of being in the world, humility, and to be able to just drink that in was really helpful. I mean, 3 fine teachers. So, that's it for today, folks. I'll be good, I promise. I'll try. So, I do have a thing or two I want to say, I think. I stumbled upon a line from a Mary Oliver poem while I was speaking earlier this morning, and I went to grab it for this time, and then I saw another poem of hers that I just can't not read. So the first one is one that's sort of new to me. When I am among the trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, especially the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say they save me and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment and never hurry through the world but walk slowly, and how often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, especially the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness, I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly, and how often around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. And I think that was the poem that wanted to be there, not the other one. Who am I to tell? Kat, would you speak the name of the third woman who spoke yesterday morning? She spoke of lineage and I just presumed you'd remember her name because you're good at that.
Did you say cat?
No, the woman the third woman who spoke yesterday, the older
Oh.
woman.
Oh, the
Is she
Zen priest?
Yeah.
Yes, Mushi Ikada.
So
I
she's
think. Let
she
me
is
check about her last
she
name.
is of Japanese descent, it would seem.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mushim, Mushim. I think her last name is Ikada. I'd have to look it back up.
She spoke about our ancestors in a way that I got it differently. And I'm going to find out. I've come close 2 or 3 times to finding out who lived on this land before us. Belongs to all of us now, but it behooves us to know our ancestors and our story to some degree. I don't want to get to make that everything, but it's the foundation. And one of our ancestors is the Buddha. There are many others. Some
Robert?
of our, yeah.
You remember that time you and I think Doug, went to a Zen monastery up in Washington, and we signed in to a big book, and they had a record of every person that had ever visited that shrine
Right.
in that Dharma center, and then they had another book with all of their lineage, who taught who, back hundreds of years. And I remember that the feeling of seeing that and feeling that continuous line of devotion and practice and loving kindness and compassion. It was just radiant. It was just an unforgettable experience. But holding that book and just feeling that those connections.
Thanks, Jim.
Robert,
Kendall.
I know you're on a thought pattern here, but I just wanted to say that I put in the chat the website where you can look up the land that you live on. You just put in your zip code, and then it tells you the various tribes, and you can see a lot of other stuff about territories and things there.
Thank you, Kendall. I've already said this morning because it's so strong in me today. But it's I got to get rid of my picture. It's not that I mind it, but it drags me into it. There. Oops! Yikes! That's not what I wanted. Gallery. Remove spot. There, you can spotlight me if you like. All right, I want to get there. Hide self view. Phew, that's good. So, it's becoming unavoidable to me. That the way that the teachings are coming together is that it really is all about love. And Jim, would you check and see who's unmuted? Thanks. And so that little ditty that I think I got from Jack Kornfield, I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment, it's like a prayer. I aspire to have equanimity toward and a warm heart toward the pleasure in my life, the pain in my life, the successes, the failures, the birth, the death, that I aspire to be open to it as it is, because this is the only way to happiness. I'm going to do something unanticipated for me. Here, just pop this up, number 35. Let me see if this makes any sense. No, that doesn't work. So, please just be with me in silence for a little bit. It's probably the most important thing I could say. Anything we're fighting with in ourselves or anybody else locks us out of the present moment. Anything we cannot open our heart to. One of the lines, the lessons I learned from Matt Flickstein, with whom I've been working for several years again, was anything in your past, in your story of your past, that you're still holding resentment toward, locks us out of the freedom of living in the present moment. I'm not one for much biblical quoting, but I remember somewhere in my training, I remember now, it doesn't matter where. There were Adam and Eve in their blissful ignorance, and they ate from the apple of good and evil, and suddenly they saw duality. They were in duality. And they were kicked out of the garden, and these guards were put there. They couldn't come back into the garden until they did the whole journey, until they saw past the good and evil, till they saw past the pleasure and pain, till they actually discovered or realized what they really are, what we really are, which is that which knows. It takes really brave people to do this practice. And we don't have it all the time. I see it in myself with spurts. I get inspired and I have a spurt of bravery, and I can look at something more clearly that I've never been able to see before. Was it Chogyam Trungpa wrote or said, meditation is one embarrassment to the ego after another. So, how about this? Why don't you try saying something to yourself like, wow, you're an amazing person that you're doing this meditation. And you actually take time to do it sometimes. Maybe you even do it every day. Going that much against the flow of the world. Before I really discovered the Dharma, I thought my career track was going to be leading mountaineering expeditions. I was very much into the mountains. And the single most dangerous thing that mountaineers do is cross streams. I know when you're up high and there's a glacier above you, I've been in this circumstance twice, once alone, which was absurd, but you stand at the bank where the water is rushing by and you've got a pole or something you're going to help yourself across with, but then you listen because there's sometimes are blocks of ice that are below the surface and they come clunking down and you can hear them sort of. That's not a stream you can cross without protection, and you can still get a leg broken in a heartbeat. This stream of our lives, the media stream and the stream of illness and sickness and relationship, and we get swept away again and again and again into greed, hatred, and ignorance because that's Mara, right? He's always there. He, she, they are always ready to. And so it takes a lot of bravery even to tiptoe in. And then we get knocked down time and again. Our addictions will come in and grab us, or some form of acting out will happen, or someone will betray us, or the culture will go insane politically, or a pandemic will come. But some people get bitten by this Dharma and just don't have any choice. Right? You get a little taste of being awake. And what else can you do? So here we are. And I would say that pertains to everybody who's here. Don't say, oh, well, I'm not there. It's not true. Every single person here is standing up in the stream and going in the opposite direction. It's one of the Buddha's sayings, going against the stream. And so we develop a practice, we develop a community. We've done really well on Zoom, and it will continue on Zoom. I've made a commitment, incidentally, that we're going to hire a consulting company that puts in systems for communication like we're doing now, as well as live in the Dharma hall in the living room. We're going to have a state-of-the-art way to stay in contact in community when we go back after COVID, if there ever is an after COVID. So, this commitment, it's to living within the precepts as best we can. It's to supporting one another. It's learning to listen to all those voices in our community that are asking, "What about me?" And it's a commitment to learning to listening to all of those voices that are within us, asking, what about me? What about me? What about that frightened little kid, what about that part that was so traumatized in this interaction or that interaction, or the horrible conditionings of misogyny and power over. Fear and the natural fears that we have because we're mortal. That was the line of the Mary Oliver poem. Something you have to. I'm going to read it now. I had it. It does fit here. Oops. Where'd it go? Here it is. Recent. Let go. Look. The trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light. They're giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds, and every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads me back to this, the fires in the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. And this is the line. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. But this was the line. To do, you must be able to do three things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. To practice our sitting practice, the gym, and really letting ourselves be here. It's hard to be here, isn't it? I was trying to explain the other day to someone who's never meditated. It was a funny conversation. Well, why would stuff come up in meditation? Why, if I were to stop and sit down, you're saying that maybe old traumas would come up. Well, why would that happen? Well, because they're in there. And the way home is down and in, not up and out. It's this turning inward. And so what a lot of bravery it takes to be a meditator. I mean, it's wonderful that meditation is such a powerful stress management strategy. And it's great that it's such a powerful way to do cognitive behavioral therapy without mindfulness. CBT doesn't work. So how wonderful that it's helpful psychologically and emotionally like that. And then how wonderful that it actually gets us into contact with that life which we've been denying until right now. And then that bleeds over immediately, or it blossoms immediately into relationships and how God is so remarkable. It's so strange. I don't know. The whole world of life is so strange. It's so strange that the things that happened to us in the first 2 years of our life, were we really cherished? Were we safe? Was there enough food? Were we sick? Was my mother schizophrenic or alcoholic, or my father violent or despairing, or was my father? I've had the privilege in my life to work with quite a few vets, not veterinarians, but vets. They've all been men who've been in combat. It breaks a person. It destroys a person, not to the core, but. And the thing that I learned from them is that it's really, really bad to see your friend blown up. It's much worse to kill someone. It breaks the rules. It's just terrible. There was, I guess I can say this was a long time. Yeah, I can. Can I? No, I'll simplify it. There was a man sitting in my office who was in the Vietnam War in fighters planes, and he had a clear shot. All he had to do was go in and pull the trigger, and the single man with a rifle would have been obliterated in napalm. And he couldn't pull the trigger. And he felt ashamed of himself for 35 years, or 30 years, because he couldn't do his job. And in my office, he sobbed and sobbed. He said, "I'm so glad." So, if we dare to meditate, if we dare to start opening our hearts to ourselves, we wind up being honest, and we wind up being more honest with our loved ones, and we also have to encounter my stepson Adrian didn't give his books back last year, so he went searching for them. Jen was very brilliant. She said, "I got a bill from the school from $185. You didn't turn your books in. You can find them, or you're paying it." He found them in 3 minutes. It was great. But it was about American history, and the book was about the Civil War a lot, and it was America is separated and has to decide. It's always been insane, and we live in an insane time. It's a very dangerous time, and we can't not know that. And so our meditation is designed both to develop the tranquility and depth and ease to be able to sit down and forget everything. My teacher, Bhikkhu Rashtrapal in India, was a funny man. He was a man of few words, really, but he said many times, and I think I don't think he was intentionally addressing my codependency, but he said, "Robert, when I meditate, I don't think of you." I don't think of anyone. He just went into being here. And so that's a very crucial, I believe it's a life-saving skill that we have to open so open that it's not shutting everything down. It's opening so open that we realize that there really is nothing to worry about. And there's a place for shutting it down too. For concentrating and quieting the mind, the body. But then where does it lead? It leads to being able to be more and more open. To be open to that family member, with boundaries, of course, when needed, but to be open to that family member that's always such a pain, or that's so aggressive, or that's so despairing, so challenged. So this is really a noble thing we're doing, this taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and actually living it. So there's many strategies. There's learning how to concentrate. There's strengthening loving kindness intentionally. There's strengthening compassion by exposing ourselves to suffering in doses that are small enough that we can actually stay open. There's daring to take delight in other people's happiness. Of course, it's the same channel. If I'm going, oh, this was, bless his heart, Ajahn Sumedho. You know the way sometimes people say something and say, "Oh, right," and you remember it for the rest of your life? He said, in metta, there is room for everything. I didn't understand how much he meant there was room for, but there's room for everything. And then and that means we're really accepting what's inside ourselves too. And then with that, then I encounter suffering, and metta turns to, "Oh, you're hurting. I can be close to you. I don't have to run." And compassion turns to mercy. How can I help? And now we have to be so careful with that, because some of us were raised with vampiric circumstances whereby I had my chart done by I never met the woman, but she was some famous chart person, astrological chart person in Chicago. And she's from your family of origin, Jim, I think. And she started out the reading by saying, Robert, how old do you think you were when you started taking care of your mother? And I said, about a year. And she said, no. Think 15 seconds. So sometimes we get into we're born into these training grounds where we're supposed to learn something. And I was supposed to learn how to be sensitive, and then ultimately how to have boundaries and how to not go there, how to not be that codependent. But how to be co-involved or co-arising together rather than codependent. So we have to be careful with compassion. And in order to work with compassion, we have to first have it for ourselves, it is our natural state. But then we also cultivate the fourth factor of the, what are they called? The Brahma Viharas, which is equanimity. And in the great equanimity, there's nothing to resist. It's all okay. It's all exactly as it is. And then mudita, this taking delight in the happiness of others. Oh dear, sometimes I blow it badly. I'm so extroverted. I love to connect with people in the world, and I was at Jen and I have a favorite funky old Japanese restaurant. That's not the right description. A very traditional old. Aikinohana is the name. And Jen was sitting here, I was sitting here, and there were two women sitting against the wall, speaking in brilliant, bright Japanese that I could not understand a word of. But I was getting this contact high that was just, they so clearly loved each other, and I don't know what they were talking about. Every now and then there'd be an English word, but they were just on. And they had a bottle of sake, and they had a lot of food. It was amazing how much food went to their table. But I was so grateful for them. I had such a contact high that as I was going out, I said, thank you for being so happy here. It's effective. And they cowered. And there's been so much aggression towards Asians and anyone who's different. But I managed to pull it out of the fire, and their English wasn't all that great, it turned out. But I managed to pull it out of the fire and left, at least not having done harm. But I was having such a mudita experience, and someone sent me a picture of their child recently. It's a beautiful little boy missing 2 upper teeth and 2 lower teeth, and he's just. And I laughed out loud. I've been going back to it and looking. It's such a contact hit of joy, and I'm allowed to feel joy. Why not? It's part of how we're built. You are too. We don't have to go down and be morose. It's like the poem I read at the beginning. But I've been in Calcutta. 50 years ago, I was in Golgata, and it was bad then, and it's worse now. But there's still, I look out my windows here. I have inexplicably, unplannedly, my afternoon plans fell apart. I'm going to get to stay here in my backyard all afternoon. I'm going to turn off the computer, and I'm going to go work in the yard. Now that's great. So, the Eightfold Path is a very old path, and you don't have to hurry and you don't have to worry. We are so blessed to have this journey to go on together. I've been on it. I've been on this Eightfold Path for a long time, but this sounds silly in a way, but it's starting to make sense. It's all one piece. It's one fabric. And it comes back to loving each other and loving ourselves. And I guess also being willing to subject ourselves to spiritual discipline, which is completely not what I thought it was. I believe now spiritual discipline is pausing long enough to know, what is it I really want? What do I really, 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 really want? Not what some ideology has sold me or my parents conditioned me into, or the advertising and the advertisers are so sophisticated now. They are in our heads. Well, there's that. I have a curiosity streak of how, in fact, that in our heads is happening, and how Facebook and all these things monitor us and how they know what we're thinking. And good grief, really I'm gonna. I don't spend much time there anyway, but anyway, don't want to get on that rabbit hole. So. Thank you very much for coming this morning and listening and participating. And I'm very touched by the occasional smile and nod that tells me, no, you're not completely off the rails, Robert. And I also wanted to, I mention this often, but I really want to thank Ruth Dennison. I would certainly not be who I am. PIMC would not exist. We stand on the shoulders of such giants. It's incredible. So there's actually a few moments that you could speak. If you have anything you'd like to share, some love story you'd like to sing to us, or a story of the pain of today. Oh, Jill Whitehorse, raised hand. God, I don't usually look there. Just speak up, please, Jill.
Robert, when you thanked Ruth, I'm moved to share this bit of philosophy that has grabbed me, which is that we may not have a soul, we may not have a self, but we have a part of us that lives on in other people. And I think if we have a soul, then maybe that is what our soul is, that which lives on in others that we've touched.
Did you see Coco? The movie Coco?
No.
Oh, you got to see the movie Coco. It's
Okay, I'll put it on my list.
it's I think I forget Pixar. I think it's a Pixar movie, but it's the story of the Day of the Dead in a way. But it's the story of this story. Beautiful.
And it's spelled like the chocolate?
Coco, C-O-C-O. Coco was the grandmother, and she died. And in the Day of the Dead, that day, in that mythology, the bridge between the worlds reforms, and the bridge is billions of little pink petals, and it's always falling away. But people can go back and forth on that one day, as long as someone is remembering them and putting their picture up on the altar. And at the moment when the last person on earth alive forgets the person on the other side, they disappear. Now that kind of gets Buddhist at that point. So it's really worth watching. It's musically terrific, and the animation is incredible. And you have Netflix in the Yukon, don't you? That was rude.
I have to chop wood to run my computer off of the firewood. So yeah.
I see.
So it'll
You
be
do
short.
Really?
No, of course not.
I, see.
Robert.
I thought you had a stove generator or something. You Yukoners are very amazing.
We live the same life that you do. Thank you.
Okay.
Robert, it's Candle.
Hello, Kendall.
Hi. I'd like to ask you something. I missed the Ruth Dennison birthday party, and I wondered whether you did something like, did you create a slideshow or anything
did.
that is reproducible to be seen
There is a slideshow.
elsewhere?
Yeah.
How would I go about watching that?
I don't know. You'd prompt me to figure out how to make it available.
Here's your prompt. If there's some way to contain what it was you presented.
Oh, well, there's bits that we could certainly do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have a nice slideshow of Ruth. And
I
you
think
weren't
I've
here.
seen parts of it.
You have. You weren't here when I said that Kat has been working in the background on the new Ruth Dennison website. And
great.
Molly has done a bunch of incredible work on some talks, and there's someone else going to do something on about 20 other talks, and these are talks from
good.
Ruth in the late 80s when she was a fireball. So
Yeah. Oh, that'll do it.
well, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything else you'd like to share? From Tracy. Thank you, Sangha.
Allison here.
Hello, Allison.
I have something to share. This last few days, my son was in a trauma accident. Oh my gosh, I didn't know it would be hard to say, but he was working a sawmill and he cut off his hand, his right hand. And so this is the trauma, and he's in the hospital now in OHSU. They life flighted him, and he's recovering from a reattachment of 3 fingers, and hopefully the thumb will survive. And the palm, the cut was in the middle of the palm. And so great to be able to say that out loud to a bunch of people that love me, and here I am. I asked, because I can't go to the hospital because of COVID, we FaceTime often. I talked to Matt this morning. His name is Matt. And he's got a sense of humor. He's really pretty up about his recovery. He has fingers full of leeches right now that are bringing blood to the tips of his fingers and his thumb. And he calls them his little buddies, and he takes them off and puts them in little places where they're supposed to go. And I just see him working through a tragedy that he says is not going to be a big, huge bump in his life. I'm sure that the rehab and everything is going to be difficult. And maybe he won't be able to save his hand. They don't know yet. But I said, tell me, do you relive the trauma that happened? The saw went through his hand very slowly because it was locked in. So he watched it be cut off like that. And it was shredded a lot too. So he said, Mom, I know it happened, and I know that I was in shock, but it's like this. It's like we all have trauma. Ever since we can remember, every human has some kind of trauma, whether it's a little trauma or a big trauma. He said, I don't try to compare it to other traumas, but I just say, this is what happened. And I was so, that really helped me as being, affected by him as his mom. And then I'm thinking about remembering what really matters and living life on life's terms and doing it that way. And being with the suffering has been so healing for me. And I have not, it's not fun. It's not a happy thing, but it's a relief only because of the honesty. If I didn't have the honesty from the Dharma of what's real, I wouldn't be able to go and say, yeah, I'm suffering from this, but there's a way out, and that's letting go. It's letting go of wanting to be a different way. And I do want it a different way, but I'm letting it go today, right now, with you. And I know that more will be revealed. It's going to be good. It's going to be hard. It's going to be all those things. But right now is what really matters. And right now, what I really, really want is I want to wake up to the present. And I'm going to keep trying to do that. And trying to, or not even trying, it's just doing instead of that. So this has been so important to me to be here this morning. I wasn't able to be here earlier. It's an ongoing saga with family about Matt and other things. And I just so glad I tuned in. So thank you. And thank you for your thoughts and your prayers.
Thank you, Allison. That was an exquisite Dharma transmission, Allison. Your description of how you and Matt are traveling through that on the raft of the Dharma, quite elegant. Encouraging. Supporting of faith. Well, anyone sitting with anything else that really wants to be said, please take the... Every now and then I remember to say this, sometimes, often. Someone will be sitting with something that's really important. And then that, who are you to say anything? Or you're too big for your britches, or I don't know how it happened in your family, but you're just whining. And sometimes it's good to just tell that piece to mind its own business and speak. And of course, only when that's the right thing. So let's go out without, sound rather Canadian. Let's go out with Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. May all beings receive all blessings. And Sadhu, it is thus, may it be thus. And let's unmute so our exquisite cacophonic harmony can be heard by all. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And one more thing. Yesterday, Jim and Maggie and Gregory and Laura came to the junk pile in 2 hours, and I was being careful not to use my back because the doc said not to do that, and it was hard. Oh God, not lifting things. However, we cleaned out the furnace room.
Fantastic.
And the tool shop where all the old paint was from the beginning of PIMC. And it turns out that Miller Paints, yes, they do receive paint for Metro, for the recycling place. However, 10 gallons at a time. So I'm going to go to 2 or 3 different Miller Paint stores today. We had a lot of old paint. However, I wanted to bow in gratefulness, and it was really wonderful to be together in person and to do that.
Not long ago,
Oh,
Rita
sorry.
Levi Montalcini.
There we go.
So thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Jim, and to Gregory and to Laura. So
It was
we're
fun.
all
Fantastic. That's great news.
yeah. Now, will you come over to my junk drawer and my garage and the hidden parts of my office and do the same thing? It's bad over here. All right, friends. Have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the backyard.
I will.
Everyone,
Thank you.
have a good day. Thank you, Robert.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Jim.
What, Maggie?
Bye, Robert. Fabulous. Bye.
Thank you. It's great to see you. I like your haircut.
Bye. Have a good day.
Hi, Bruce. You're upside down, Bruce. Hello. There you are.
Hi.
Look at you. You didn't comb your hair yet today.
Oh no, that's its natural state.
I see. Just before we went live, Jim helped me to get mine a little orderly.
Anyways, snow in the hills here.